On December 20th, 1860, South Carolina seceded from the Union, thus beginning the build-up to the bloodiest war in American history. Between then and the start of the war, 10 other Southern states followed and formed the Confederate States of America. Tensions built, and on April 12, 1861, the first shots of the American Civil War were fired. The war ended 4 years later on April 9, 1865, when Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered and signed a ceasefire at the Appomattox Courthouse. By this time, the war had claimed 620,000 lives. Despite all the violence, there were women who were willing to jump into the fray to provide care for the wounded. Before the Civil War began, there was a great deal of anti-Catholic sentiment in the United States, and convents were often threatened with and suffered from violence. The sisters, however, stayed strong and continued to spread throughout the country, building schools and hospitals as they went. When the war began, they acted as nurses, providing aid to the wounded on both sides. They won respect for their courage and skills, as well as their compassion without regard to politics or religion, but only to need. The Nuns of the Battlefield Memorial was built in 1924 to honor the various orders of sisters who gave their services as nurses on the battlefields and in hospitals during the Civil War.
Today, the monument stands in urban DuPont Circle. The memorial is constructed out of hard stone and copper that has discolored since it was built. Stone reflects the strength of the nurses, while the bronze that must have once been untarnished and beautiful would have shown the honor and prestige granted them. Surrounding the monument, there is a well-kept hedge. This gives the monument a more isolated and peaceful atmosphere. On the bottom of the memorial it reads, "To the memory and honor of the various orders of sisters who gave their services as nurses on battlefields and in hospitals during the Civil War." This is a formal statement that is necessary for the clear interpretation of the monument. There is a text above the memorial that reads, "They comforted the dying, nursed the wounded, carried hope to the imprisoned, gave in his name a drink of water to the thirsty." This is an accurate and poetic description of what the nuns gave during this time. This sentiment is emotional and essential to the mood of the memorial. The figure on the left depicts a nun dressed as a warrior. It is meant to reflect the nuns' courage and strength in the battlefield. The nun shown has masculine features and no hair. And in fact, the only indication that it is a woman is the chest area. It is interesting that the only reflection of strength in the memorial is shown in a way that directly contrasts most people's image of a nun. The figure on the right, in contrast, shows a nun in traditional woman's clothing, with wings attached to her back. This side shows the compassion and care the nurses had for those they tended. The wings show the nun's pure and true nature, and give the figure a softness contrasting the warrior. The center panel shows the orders of nuns standing around, some holding rosaries and Bibles. All of the nuns are shown with somber expressions, and none of them are shown tending to the wounded. Though it is clear that they are in the battlefield from the forest debris below them, their positions do not reflect the urgency and action of the battlefield. Images of the nuns practicing their duties as nurses may have been a more effective way to commemorate their services. The view of the monument is interrupted by yellow caution tape. The overall cleanliness of the monument was very poor. Various pieces of trash littered the ground, and a pair of dirty socks lay on top of the hedges surrounding the monument. Across the street from the memorial is a church, which many people were visiting throughout the time we were filming. Churchgoers are probably most likely to look at the memorial since it is dedicated to nuns. But with all the cars going by, it is difficult to notice the memorial, even though it is only 100 feet away. Compared to the retail building directly behind it, the memorial looks minuscule. This makes the memorial very easy for the passerby to ignore, as their attention is focused on the mammoth-sized building, not the small block of stone in front of it. In the end, age and neglect have diminished the sobering effect the memorial was meant to have on the viewer. Though the memorial is flawed, it still conveys the intended message, that the war could not have been fought without these honorable women, and that the nuns of the battlefield had just as much patriotism and courage as the soldiers.